Good evening, all participants. Welcome to the panel discussion, the online panel discussions on building business resilience in tough times. I welcome all the panel members and the moderator. Panel members are Mr. Prashant Gandhi from Siddhi Engineers, Group Partner, then Mr. K. Subramaniam, Massibus Automation and
Hello.
Instrumentation, Managing Director, Mr. Dhruv Shah, Prasad Group of Companies, Managing Director, and we have our moderator, Mr. Rajiv Bhatt, who is the Associate Partner with Ernst & Young LLP. I hand over the session to Mr. Rajiv Bhatt, and I request all the questions can be posted in the chat box, which Mr. Rajiv can view and ask to the panel members also. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Radhika. Good evening and good afternoon to everybody. Hope everybody is safe, their homes or wherever you are. And welcome to this session on building resilience in tough times. I think it's quite a delight to have three distinguished panelists with us today, as Radhika mentioned. Mr. Subramaniam, Mr. Prashant Gandhi, and Mr. Dhruv Shah. I think they represent a very nice, diverse set of industries, and they are pioneers in their mid-market or mid-size industries. I'm sure these are participants on this session will be able to benefit from what they have done, what they see the future panning out, and their advice to young and emerging companies to face the uncertain times we are looking ahead in the current times. So I think before we get on to the Q&A, I thought we'll just give a brief context of what we are seeing in the times to come, and then maybe with that context we can get into the Q&A of asking the panelists how they are responding to the current times and building more resilience in the organization. So just to give a context, you see, I hope everybody can see my slide on the participants as well. If there is any problem, please feel free to put a message on the chat and we'll quickly resolve it. So what do you mean by resilience? I think we talk about resilience, but it's important to understand what we mean by resilience. Resilience is basically the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. I think we all on this webinar will agree that we are going through an unfortunate and unexpected, unprecedented phase in our lifetime, at least in my lifetime. I'm sure most of us will also agree to that. And it is a misfortune in a way. And while we have been talking about that, it's also important to note that human race as a race has been always an optimistic race, and we have the power and the endurance to grow beyond the tough times. So I think we are all ingrained to be resilient. It's more about how do we adapt to the current times and reshape and refocus our energies in the true context of being resilient in the times to come. So I think it was important to just put the definition of resilience into the right context, so that whatever Q&A happens is around the ability to recover from the current times which we are seeing. And these times are going to continue for an unforeseen period of time. There is no real full stop or a deadline by which we see that the unexpected times of COVID will go away. People talk about vaccines and so on and so forth, but still uncertainty will prevail. How the virus will mutate, what shape it will take in the future, it's anybody's guess. So I think given a lot of uncertainty and variability around the future, and given that we are literally in a VUCA world, which is a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, with that point in mind, how do we navigate these times is what we will like to discuss with the panelists. Just to give few numbers, uh, as we all know, India has also tried to respond to these times, and globally, the countries are doling out fiscal and monetary stimulus packages to pump prime the economy, to give boost to the demand, as well as to try to mitigate the supply shocks. So as the economists say, it's both a demand and supply shock in current times, and the economies have been responding in terms of whatever ammunitions they have from a monetary and fiscal standpoint. India, as we see in this slide, uh, before the fiscal stimulus got announced in April, May, the blue bars which you see on the slide were the GDP forecast for FY21 before the stimulus. And the latest projections, if you see the red ones, are extremely pessimistic if you see. Looking at the IMF, looking at the next chart, looking at the IMF projections, FY21 is expected to be negative 4.5 GDP growth rate, real GDP growth rate. But on the positive side, IMF does expect a steep V-shaped recovery for FY22. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, which is a very positive sign. But again, it all depends on how this all evolves, and the future is anybody's guess right now. If you see this slide, which talks about the stimulus given by various countries across the globe vis-a-vis their GDP. So US obviously is around 12.3% of their GDP is the fiscal stimulus given by the country. Vis-a-vis that India is just 1.2% of the GDP. So India, again, we have our own constraints. We don't have the kind of budgets and the huge surpluses which other countries have, or the ability to print money which other countries have, and hence our ability to even provide stimulus is constrained. But given those constraints, whatever best we can do is what we should try to optimize, is the message from this slide. Globally, almost $11 trillion have been pumped into the global economy as part of the stimulus. People have been recently saying that there are some green shoots emerging, particularly in India. And if you see the Purchase Managers Index, that is the PMI for manufacturing, it is basically a lead indicator, which is a consensus of few purchase managers about their optimism to procure. And why would somebody procure? They will procure only when they are optimistic about production happening and demand coming in. So if you see in April, after the lockdown, it went down to 27.4, the index, which has significantly steeply increased to 47.2, which reflects optimism in the manufacturing sector. The service sector, actually 5.4 was the index in April, which is historical low for the service sector, and which has grown to 33.7, which is a healthy respite for service organizations. And I think another proxy of growth is the GST collection. If you see the last row, in April, the GST collection was just 32,000 crores, which has again gone back to 90,000 crores, which is roughly 1 lakh crores, which was the earlier average before the pre-COVID, I would say. So we are coming back to the pre-COVID times slowly and gradually at the steady pace. But the question mark, which is why I mentioned the question on the green shoots, is it how sustainable this could be? Is it just a short-term pent-up demand coming back to the economy, or is it going to sustain for a longer time? That again depends upon how the future situation evolves. So I think having said that, there is a lot of uncertainty going forward, and which means that when we talk to people, like this is a brief snapshot of what we did with some of our clients in the recent past. When we spoke to them, what really came out is a lot of uncertainty in the future, and what is really important is for organizations is to be resilient, agile, and to be able to plan with foresight to mitigate the impact of the crisis. So I think with this background, I would now like to welcome all the panelists. And since the theme is on resilience, let us understand from them and kind of learn how they have been trying to navigate the current times and try to build resilience in their respective organizations. So welcome, Mr. Subramaniam. Welcome, Prashant Bhai. Welcome, Dhruv.
Thank you.
And I would like to start with I think Mr. Subramaniam first, in terms of if each of the panelists can quickly introduce themselves and their organization, what kind of products they manufacture or deliver, what is their customer end use industry. So at least the participants can get a flavor of the organization, and that can be a good context setting for the future Q&As. So maybe you can spend a couple of minutes to introduce your organization, please, Subramaniam sir, and then maybe we can move on to Prashant Bhai and then Dhruv.
For the webinar today. Yeah.
In the meantime, I'll just turn down my presentation so you can see. Yeah, sir, please go on. Please carry on, sir.
Good evening. I started in 75 to a 250 company. We are in the business of electronic instrumentation and also providing automation solutions. And we serve A to Z about 50 segments in the market, right from atomic energy to zinc. And our products are mostly used for control and automation applications, like controlling of temperature, pressure, voltage, current, etc., etc. Now, in the solution side, we give total solutions for companies for segments like chemical, pharma, steel, and wherein they control their systems, they monitor their systems as part of the SCADA system, we call it, supervisory control and data acquisition control, measurement, and also giving the information to the respective customers by virtue of either directly on their existing computer or by virtue of giving the data in the cloud domain as of now are the business in which we are. In our 45 years of existence, and they're all big and small, right from atomic energy to zinc, as I said, including Department of Space, Department of Atomic Energy, and in the steel industry. Reliance, they are a customer profile as of today. So that's Massivus. I think many of you may be knowing. If not, this is what we are. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhir. Prashant, you would like to go ahead?
Yeah, good evening, friends. Uh, First of all, thanks a lot to AMA for providing this opportunity. Ours is a first generation organization wherein after doing engineering and post graduation in management with about 4 years of experience with a company called Gujarat Steel Tube Limited, we started our first manufacturing unit in 1988. My partner Bhagwat Patel and Shailesh Patel, all of us, we were studying together at Vallabh Vidyanagar. And incidentally, Bhagwat Bhai was my classmate for 5 years, as also roommate for 5 years. So with his courage, we started the unit. You know, Patels, they they have this. One day morning, he said we should start something at early age. Now, our major mission during this lifetime is to produce import substitutes and export them globally. We have been doing only this and this and this, nothing else. And when we started, we selected a line where there was nobody in Gujarat because that vision was limited up to Gujarat. We are into two lines at the moment. One is producing aluminum precision drawn tubes and bobbins for metal bobbins rather for textile industry, specifically synthetic yarn industry. So nylon and polyester, these are the two yarns on which we work on. What we have done throughout is, you see, whatever developments have taken place is precisely what we talk about today about Atmanirbhar or self-reliant. Everything that we produce and which goes to about 35 countries of the world is produced on machines which are manufactured here. The material is from India. The people who work, about a family of about 100, are from surrounding villages, and it travels to 35 countries, but mainly Israel, Indonesia, Italy, USA, and such countries. And by God's grace, for about 26 years we have been exporting now, but with a zero return back to our country, you know, from a small organization. During our journey, we have made sure that we develop a culture of innovation, and the organization is driven through research and new products that are developed time and again as per the need of the customer. We are a major supplier to our space program, our missile program, for making various defense equipments like telescopic mast, which are posted on the whole China border, and many other things. It has been a very interesting journey wherein we also are associated with various educational institutes, uh, as also we are connected with various industrial organizations or commerce-based organizations. With this small background, I think I would leave it to Dhruv by then. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please, Prashant bhai. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Prasad Group of Company, I mean, we are manufacturing machinery for plastic industries, having 7 joint venture with European companies and 500 employees. And I joined the company, 25 years back. Specifically, this unit we started in 95 December or somewhere, and I joined in 96 April. So almost from the inceptions, this automation system. So now the group, we have 500 employees, specifically plastic machinery group I'm talking about. And last year we touched what 200 CR odd turnover. But what to do with it? I mean, it's so uncertain and fast changing. So I think past really doesn't matter. So that's it.
Yeah. I think you summed it up quite aptly, Dhruv. It's so uncertain and fast changing that past doesn't matter. We are really talking about, how we can build resilience for the future, and really whatever has worked in the past may not work in the future, or may be required to be tweaked to an extent that it may no longer appear what had appeared in the past. So you're absolutely right. So, gentlemen, thanks for this brief introduction. And it is interesting for the panelists, for the audience, of the participants to understand that we have first generation as well as second generation entrepreneurs on the panel today, and the perspectives will be different. The way to approach the problem may be different, but we are all facing a similar problem. So I think it will be very interesting to understand from our distinguished panelists, how did you react, or how did you foresee the pandemic evolving from, say, December, January, when the news started coming in the market about China, and India obviously was quite isolated and insulated at that point of time. So, did you really foresee an impact of this proportion globally and on India, and lastly on your organization in the very early stage of the pandemic, or you were looking at it more like a business as usual? I'll start with Dhruv first. If
Okay.
you can share your thoughts on that.
Okay. Initially, I thought it was some Chinese virus to the China, for the China, by the people of China. So from the 1st March, the scenario is changed because I found it coming to India very high level. And when the lockdown imposed, actually, I found it a great opportunity. Leaving apart the really sad part of the migrant labor, such a compulsory break in life is really rare. And we also decided, let's stop talk about the business, which we always used to talk in our organization. So let's talk about life. So on the 22nd itself, I sent my recorded video to all the 13 branch managers and all the senior managers of the company about 21 days habit. So you can form any habit, reading, writing, exercising, learning, by practicing constantly for 21 days. But we really don't get such time in our life. So we always postpone it.
Yeah.
So this was a really opportunity where we can do it. It took also 1 week constant effort to took out all the branch managers from the corona and news and WhatsApp, and to focus on something creative. But it succeeded very well. So I don't want them to work constantly. I wanted them to at least spend 3 to 4 hours a day in good creative stuff. Rest they can enjoy. And yes, it worked very well. So all have upgraded themselves. Uh, Thanks to the technology, we are connected. So everyone has a multiple task of the training, database updation, which was pending for so many years. Because when you are growing in a business, you generally don't take care of cleaning your stuff. Now, when everything is stopped, you can put your house on order. So, yeah, we got a tremendous advantage, and I enjoyed like anything.
Good. I think that is very optimistic way of looking at those scenario, and using it to actually upgrade your people and give them the opportunity to form positive habits, which can help them to sustain the uncertain times. Excellent. Prashant bhai, what about you? How did you react immediately, or your at your early stage of your kind of this whole pandemic? How did you react, and how did you respond to it?
How much time do I have, sir?
I think each question will take about a minute or so, so then we can cover all the questions.
Yeah.
And obviously, at the end, we can keep it open-ended as well if there is something to be
Okay.
covered on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So maybe
Yeah.
2 minutes for each question.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we were listening about lockdown almost coming to India, we started giving work for everybody to do at home. And we thought of three things. We said time is coming when we have a great opportunity of improving the productivity, wherein even if we have 50 to 60% of people available with us because of various reasons, we should be able to produce the same what we used to do. And as we go along, if the time comes when we have to produce more, then also we will become ready for that because of that. So the first focus was on improving productivity. The roadmap was created. Second focus was on improving our manufacturing business related skills, wherein we immediately took a decision to go for two programs. In one of them, 11 of us who take about 80% of decisions for our manufacturing setup were exposed to Lean Six Sigma Green Belt program. It's a relatively long program, and 7 sessions of 2 hours, and we organize for it, which provides an opportunity for breakthrough improvements. And second program we went was for Kaizen, where we involved many of our people, and there it involves incremental improvements, which we wanted all of our people to get into. The third thing that we decided, that we have to broad base our customer base in India and throughout the world. Only then we will be able to get sufficient volumes. I think with these three thoughts, we implemented several things, sir. Yeah. Over.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, I think that's very interesting, Prashant, because
Yeah.
when you implement all these new initiatives, obviously there was a lot of uncertainty in terms of the timelines.
Yeah.
So maybe before I move on to Mr. Subramaniam, I wanted to just ask you, when
Hmm.
you implemented these initiatives, did you see that this is going to be a long-term and a long-drawn process to fight the battle of lockdown and the pandemic, or you were actually preparing for a short term?
Yeah, very wonderful, wonderfully asked, sir. We thought that this vaccine will take 1.5 years to come. Actually, I was listening to a speech of a cardiologist who used to treat Pramukh Swamiji, Dr. Tejas Patel. And there, immediately I realized that this very learned doctor is clearly saying that searching and then validating the vaccine and making sure that it reaches to lakhs and crores of people will take not less than 1.5 years. Second was, we thought that we will have some spikes in terms of people shifting from China to India, but to sustain that spike and take it on a growth path, we will have to improve ourselves thoroughly. If we do not do that, the spikes will just go away. I think on these two bases we worked on everything.
Fantastic. I think that is absolutely the fundamentals of Atmanirbhar, because we talk about Atmanirbhar, but if you are not really Nirbhar, or capable of handling the Atmanirbhar agenda, then we really would not be able to ride the wave of Atmanirbhar. So that's much appreciated, Prashant. Mr. Subramaniam, and I think we can call you Mr. Subbi. That's what you fondly, like to be called. So I'll call you Mr. Subbi. How was your initial reaction to the whole situation? Did you really foresee to be a long drawn thing, and what were your immediate, kind of measures which you took?
Actually, when this thing broke up, COVID, we were traveling in New Zealand, and
I see.
I arrived here on we as a family arrived here in middle of February, and then and there I knew that it would have a long-term effect. In fact, I started predicting this right from January, even before, because we had equipped ourselves with masks when we went abroad also as well. Now, normally in our business, the month of March we do quite a lot of billing. We do about 15 to 20% at times of the annual turnover. So I knew that this is going to be affected. I was telling my people to be sure that all the billings happen. So as expected, we missed out about 10% of the billing of the year in the last 2 weeks of March. So that impacted our top line and bottom line in the last year. Now, what was the priority for this year? We had to
Mr.
ensure
Subbi,
that
if I may just
all the
interrupt,
orders which are
if I may interrupt, Prashant bhai, would you like to put yourself on mute and Dhruv as well? So I think there is a lot of background noise. People who are not speaking may just keep themselves on mute. It'll be easier. Yeah. Thank you. Please go on, Mr. Subbi.
yeah, as a prior, obviously our pending orders are intact. So we started contacting the customers and wanted to start the new year by billing the back. But in April was a total washout, and we as soon as May started, we started putting a standard SOPs in place for hygiene and the way to work and social distancing and all. And we started production from the month of May onwards. As Prashant has put up, in the production, we could only bring in those people who are necessary. The rest of the people we were working from home. What I meant is the R&D people, the projects engineering people, they were all and the marketing people. They were all starting to work from home. That was a new culture by itself. So working from home means obviously we were not prepared for that. So we had to train them up in terms of how to do it and when to do it, and started doing some logging of what people are doing. And we were preparing ourselves to do the training internal as well as multiple webinars to be conducted during the Q1. That is what we were focusing on. One more thing we realized is we did our SWOT analysis. What SWOT analysis before COVID and the new SWOT analysis we had to do after COVID, which necessarily means our strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Threat obviously was COVID. Opportunities, again, as the other two gentlemen also said, any adversity is also an opportunity, and I mean, we try to align our strength uh, to address those new opportunities, and that's what we were doing in terms of market segments, in terms of what products to be developed for them in this new scenario. And also one more thing, as a business, we decided that we have to go quarter to quarter now. So we started planning for the first quarter, which was basically to see that we survive and all the pending orders in this quarter, and parallelly start digital media and all. And we were starting to planning to do all that in the first quarter. And that is how we have completed the first quarter. No doubt, quarter to quarter compared to last year to this year, it is low, but at the same time, we are optimistic. And as the other two gentlemen put up, our job was to motivate our people and keep them totally engaged in terms of training and addressing the customer and keeping them on their toes all the time.
Yeah. I think which obviously brings us to two important points, sir. One is because when the whole thing initiated, the lockdown also happened, there was a lot of fear in the mind of employees as well, because they were uncertain. They were seeing orders being cancelled. They were seeing that because of supply chain issues, it was difficult to produce, to get the raw materials, and even they may be fearing their jobs on one hand. And secondly, even for small and mid-sized organizations, financing also became quite a bit of a challenge, because if they were not able to recover the money from their account receivables, how do they pay the vendors, and how do they pay their employees as well? So I think on finance side and on your people side, how did you navigate your initial times, which were actually more important in terms of safety and financial liquidity in the organization, to ensure that the company is floating and sustaining, as you said, you know?
This question
So
is,
you can start. Yeah, it's for you, sir, and then I can move on to the other panelists.
see, you very rightly put up. Let's talk about finance. We had a good amount of reserves to start with for this financial year. At the same time, we had to ensure that these reserves last for a long time in this current. I know we paid the full salary for people in April, almost the full salary. From May onwards, we talked to our people and we said that the money which is there, which can possibly last for 4 months or so, we should stretch it for 6 months. We communicated with our people and we convinced them to take a small cut in their salaries as far as the expenses are concerned. The other cost cutting measures were all the other expenses. Obviously, we were cutting to almost be cut by more than 50-60%. And that's how we survived the first quarter. And our people cooperated. And in fact, they were more than willing to share the load of the company. Because just as you said, now, save for the rainy day, stretch our resources last for 6 months at least, because we anticipated that until September, there's going to be trouble. And after that, maybe things will start improving as far as finance is concerned. As far as banking is concerned, we had no problems because our banks are good and we have a good track record. So we had no issues with the bank. And as such, in fact, although we have a lot of cash credit for the first quarter, we didn't touch anything. We had enough reserves in our cash credit account to sustain us. As far as the people are concerned, yes, this is where we focus first about if and when they have to start working to put the standard operating procedures in place. So we did a lot of studies, the WHO studies, and benchmark with so many other companies like Siemens, Indigo, and all those companies, what they are doing. And we came out with our own SOP, which itself we brainstormed for 2 weeks time before the lockdown opened. And we made it compulsory for all to follow. And one condition we definitely put that if anybody breaks the SOP, he will lose his job. That was a threat, to be given to people who are down the line, who are attending the factory. As far as people attending from home, there was no issue. Traveling obviously was not there, so there was no worry for or no need for our salespeople and marketing people to travel around. Even our area office people were asked to work from home. The law was that no one will travel unless it is absolutely essential and it has to be approved by the top management. Only then they need to travel, specifically from customer support point of view. And as far as customer support is concerned, we also started giving them remote supports, in this period after May onwards. So very few people went to the site to do that, and that to nearby sites. As such, obviously we have to keep the customers happy, and we did that in this first quarter. As far as money is concerned, we ensured that everybody is on the job to collect the money from the point of view of receivables, and obviously purchase orders and all were put on hold, and only those minimum requirements were asked to be bought. And even if you were buying, there was no logistics, in the first 1.5 months or so. Now things have started coming in. And as far as the inventory is concerned, yes, whatever we are able to bring it down, and we have never stopped our suppliers payments for sure. And we we did make them payment. Maybe there was a delay of 15 days, but we kept them happy. And even today, we are taking care of our suppliers on time. So, and we have, as you said, a crisis team, a management team, which looks into every angle of the business, and they are working remotely, doing and taking care of the situations.
Fantastic.
I think.
Dhruv, how did you manage people in the finance dimensions when this thing all suddenly came up, in India? Because these were really the concerns initially for companies to survive, finance and people. Dhruv, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's better.
Yeah. So safety, yes. Thanks to CII, FICCI, Chamber of Commerce, GCCI, they provided hell amount of materials and webinar for safety practices. So we gathered all, made a huge box files, 2, 3, and team has to implement everything like best practice by Mahindra, Godrej, Bosch, Dell. Now, what we have to do is whatever they do not implement, they have to report, not what they implement. But again, I have to say honestly, we are not successful here. I did a 4-time audit by myself, and all the time we failed with some of the loopholes system for the safety. So I'll tell the later on what other precautions we have taken. Uh, Second part is you said about finance.
Finance. Yeah.
Bank term, managing capital, inventory, stock. No, we were really not worried because I can say thanks to my father, Prakash Bhai, he taught me 20 years back not to work with the borrowing. So for last 20 years, we are debt free and reserved is already there. Now condition of the finance, everybody is passing through the bad phase. So we are really not focused on that. Rather, we are leveraging it and providing quick deliveries. So maybe the different case, yeah.
No, I think it is very good to know વડીલોની વાત સાંભળવાની અને માનવાની. And I think if you really listen to what they say, they are generally right, And that is the benefit of having senior mentors also in the family. And as I was telling somebody that, globally, family businesses are proven to be more resilient in these times because of the family value which they have and the culture of working along with the people like a family team. So globally, research which has proven that family businesses with the culture in which they are nourished and nurtured, they are much more resilient to cope up with uncertain times. So very good. Prashant bhai, coming back to you, how did you manage or how did you respond to the challenges of people and finance, or did you face any challenges for the in the initial stages? Please unmute yourself before you speak.
Yeah, we have not looked at it as very big challenges. They were definitely challenges. What we looked at it was life of our people, our 105 family members. So what we have done is actually we have developed a very small immunity boost up program. Safety aspects, yes, you have a sanitizer in the front and then a tunnel also, which was later on said that it's not good, etc. We did everything, but what precisely what we have done is we have developed a immunity boost up program, uh, and we have put it under PDCA cycle also because there was an assessment when this month ended, wherein all of us from partners to the security, everybody would do certain things, certain exercises for about 12 to 15 minutes daily, whether they are at home or they are on duty. Before starting the work, they are supposed to do this. And I'm very pleased to say that the very recent audit that we made showed wonderful results, almost 90% compliance by our people. Now, this program is developed in such a way that, it involves meditation. It also involves exercises which are related to lungs. It involves exercises for improving your white blood cell. and also affects the nodules which improve the resilience of your body, because we thought business resilience is one, but only if we will be there in business only if our people are there with us. And
Yeah.
now we are trying to spread it to all our stakeholders. Like we have several vendors and suppliers, and then several agencies who work with us. Having successfully tested it, we are trying to spread it to many of us so that our supply chain also probably remains intact because of that. That was one. And second, on finances, you see, I heard actually a small video from Dhruv. I got it from his father, and it was really inspiring. As such, I am very fortunate that there was alignment among our partners. And before going on leave, we declared to everybody that whatever length be of this pandemic, the lockdown, we will not remove a single person from the job. And number two, till you are home, you will be paid fully. After you come back, what happens is a different matter. But you will be fully paid while you are at home. And by God's grace, the flow remained with us, even from countries like USA, Spain, Germany, during the pandemic. दे से दैट तुम किसी चीज को पूरे दिल से चाहते हो तो पूरी कायनात भी तुम्हें उसे मिलाने में लग जाती है. तो money flew, we were also surprised. And when their deliveries were also being made, because our factory started, one of them started on 10th of April, being a strategic supplier to nations, various organizations, government gave us permission for our unit where we export to all these countries outside. There also we started on 25th of April. So you see, the things were much better
Hmm.
because of all these reasons. Yeah.
Right. But sir, again, taking a thread from that itself,
Mm.
when you are supplying to government agencies, defense, ISRO, and so
Mm.
on and so forth, but if the supply chain is disrupted, if you are not able to get your trucking in place or logistics in place or your raw material in place, then how did you see that entire supply chain evolving? And now I'm moving from customer finance to supply chain, from people in finance to supply chain now. So how did you see your supply chain getting disrupted, although you had good orders? And how did you build resilient in the supply chain?
Sir, I was speaking on various webinars with IIM Bangalore or NASCOM, and everywhere I was sharing them with them that on demand as well as supply side, we are going to have disruptions. But, because I had to think for that, I also thought as an organization, our people were so active. I am very gladly saying that not for a single day our supplies has been affected, not for a single day. You see, all our, and that is mainly because of relationships with whether I'm getting supplies from Tata Steel or companies like Century Extrusion in Kharagpur, or some company from Ludhiana. All of them stood to time, and we were so fortunate that we were able to receive supply. And even on customer side, I would say Birla companies, they were under lockdown in Pune. When we said that your material is ready, the next mail came saying that you please supply the material. We have not started the production, but we are ready to accept it. And they paid also in time. You see, the moment they started, within 6 7 days they paid also. So I think it is only and only relationship and very proactive follow from our people. It worked well.
So that's actually very contrary to what we've been reading in the newspapers and the press, that SMEs have been very badly impacted. The receivables have gone really long in terms of both private sector and PSU sectors, and they are facing challenges to, recover money. I think it is good to know from your side, Prashant bhai, that given your strong relationship, you had no issues in terms of your receivables. Customers were really supporting. So I think that's a
Sir,
lesson for SMEs to invest in
sir,
relationships. Yeah, please.
not for receivables. What I'm trying to say is, as far as supplies were not disturbed, none of the order were cancelled by in India or throughout the world. Some of the places, yes, I should accept that the payments are getting delayed, but we are floating now. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Subi, about the supply chain and the impact of that on Masibas, how did you see that? And what did you do differently to ensure that your supply chain is smooth despite the constraints imposed
Actually,
in the lockdown?
yeah, being in electronics, we have got imports, okay, and both in terms of components, and we are also doing business of agencies with many of the foreign people where we do value-added representation over here. We had problems because they all got stuck up in either Mumbai or in Delhi, and for it took more than a month for us to get some of those things in. And the funny thing is, despite this, some of the government of India and the airport charge demurrages for this. And
Mhm.
they say that they're supporting MSME, but then we have to pay demurrages also for those things, for materials which was originally come in March, started coming from April onwards. But now things have improved, and from June on is online as far as the supplies are concerned. Now, yeah, as far as the people are concerned, I've already discussed. Yes, people are very important for us because ours is a R&D company. Being in electronics for 45 years itself speaks volumes. Without R&D, because in 45 years we would have done 9 or 10 generations of technology change would have happened. So we are literally riding a technology tiger. So they all started. They were all working from home, and last month on June onwards, things came online, and some of the R&D people and all, they come to the factory only when required, otherwise they work from home. So
Hmm.
fundamentally, things look streamlined from end of June onwards as far as the business of manufacturing is concerned for us. And we do call only those people who are required. And as Prashant Bhai said, not a single person has lost their job here. That is our aim. We are ensuring that everybody is well trained and also multi-skilled at this point of time. And even in people who are in sales, we told everybody to be tuned to sales so that at this point of time, getting orders is most important. And as Prashant said, to broaden the customer base, whether it's in India or abroad, and that's what we are doing by digital marketing techniques right now.
Mhm. Interesting. So I think the whole scare that SMEs will be really badly impacted in these current times, and many of them will actually go out of business, may need to file for bankruptcy. How do you feel that that scare is really kind of shaping up? Is it a scare which is really worrying the SMEs, or it was more a hype rather than reality? Mr. Subi?
No doubt, it is a scare from uncertainty point of view. But in the last 45 years, we have gone through so many challenges and we have overcome. As you rightly started off saying that human beings are meant to face challenges, and we will be facing this also, and will be coming out of it. And that's why we are propping up our people also. And fundamentally, we are asking them to be more innovative, to think out of the box, and to be contributing. I mean, we said forget about the departments. All of you are salespeople right now, whether you are, and think from the customer point of view and think what they want. And we are kept it open for anybody and everybody to suggest how we can address this situation and encash the um, available opportunities over here. So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, departments are out of the question at this time. Yes, it's only an administration and the role responsibility, but that's what we have been talking about in the last 4 or 5 days, where we have started reviewing people and the teams from the Q1 performance point of view, how to meet Q2. And these are the
Right.
messages we are giving them. And we told that every one of you consider that you are owning this business on own, drilling into people, which has been there. In our Massivist culture, it has always been there. And they also respect us for that. And we respect is again give and take. And people, end of the day, for us, it's more people driven. And we are ensuring that they are all motivated and they produce and they are delivering. Productivity is of importance for us, and that's the area where we are focusing on right now, both whether it is at the factory or at home.
Right. Great. I think that is very useful. I think there's some request from the participant. Prashant bhai, if you want to put your speaker on your mic on mute, again, they want, I think there's some disturbance coming in. Dhruv, I would like to come to you now on the same point of supply chain. You have, beyond your organization as well, Prasad Group, you have got multiple collaborations globally. You have a global footprint, a global market as well. So, how did you see the supply chain challenges shaping up, and what did you do to ensure that there was the minimum disruption in supply chain? You'll have to unmute yourself, Dhruv.
Yeah, honestly not, because we import from our principal company and our principal company has not even stopped for a day. Even in Italy, there was not even a 1 day uh, delay from there to shipping any components. So we got all our components on time. Of course, during lockdown, we could not serve our customer. But once it opened, actually it is a reverse. Now the shipping, we are ready, but few of the projects are little delayed. So they are not lifting the
Mhm.
equipments. So it is only a problem of finance management, not the supply chain for us, really.
Okay, that's very
Ah,
interesting.
for vendors, yes, but that is a different aspect. It's a human aspect because let's say we paid everyone's salary on 31st April, even if it was illegal. I mean, in a curfew, the people travel to the factory, open the ERP, and transfer the money to all the workers. Similar way on 30th April, we paid to every worker. 30th May once again.
Hmm.
When the factory, the lockdown is open, we paid to all our vendors fully when they were not expecting. While with the later that we paid our all the at least daily wages fully. So we
Hmm.
request you also that if we are paying you amount in a full without delaying, we
Yeah.
request that or we expect that you also reciprocate in the same manner for your daily wages. So that
Right.
yeah, we win the trust of our lot of suppliers that way. That's all.
Right.
That's
No,
it.
I agree. I think this has been a great, as I think Mr. Subi also mentioned, that this is a great time to be looking at opportunity in adversity. And I can see the common theme across three of you is that you have invested in relationship building, for your people, for your suppliers, for your customers, and I think these relationships will probably go a long way in ensuring that there is resilience even in tough times, because that's what we really eventually need in the uncertain times. If we can have customers who are loyal to us, who don't cancel the orders, obviously they also have their own challenges, but to the extent they don't cancel the orders and we are not badly impacted, and we have people to support us, because they also see that you have supported them in the tough times and you have got the vendors to supply. I think this three, the triangle of people, vendors, and customers, is where we need to really invest relationships, and that's what I think all of you have done, which I think is the right thing, and a great learning for all of us. I think coming back to, so we have spoken about how did you respond to the challenges immediately, but tell me, Dhruv, how are you seeing future panning out? Are you able to, as Mr. Subi said, they are taking quarter by quarter and planning it in a short-term measure, short-term frame rather than looking at a long-term. Normally, we look at half year or a yearly forecast. So, how are you seeing your future panning out, and what kind of assessments you are doing to plan your future and to plan your demand and to plan your production and your sales eventually and profitability? Uh, how are you going about that in these uncertain times?
So yeah, definitely uncertain time gives huge opportunity always. It's because when you have a break, you can really
Yeah,
look
thanks,
into
Radhika.
your processes very nicely. So with the economic crisis comes all improvement and initiative to become more competitive. For so many years, I was observing that we said that multinational companies are coming in India and it is difficult for SMEs. But last 3 years, I found many Chinese, even smaller companies come to India and taking over everything. So because no way we were enough competitive with them. Now it is excellent time, and because of this, again, work from home and all these digital platforms, we really looked into the cash flow, the wastage elimination, the global market, because आपको यहाँ नहीं मिलेगा तो कहीं तो ढूंढोगे. So, and you become more slick. These will definitely leads to wherever the market is open, a much better opportunities.
Yeah.
Another thing, let's say there is an opportunity from multinationals. A smaller company has always a problem that they cannot access to the global market. Multinational company can hire the all over world offices. They can fly. They can meet their customers. Big exhibitions, big budget. Now everything is curtailed. Whether you are small or mid, you cannot travel. So it is a best opportunity. You invest all your budget into the digital marketing. You have a video conferencing from a village of Gujarat to the New York, and whether somebody is there in New York, again they have to do the video conferencing. So you are the same, I mean. So why not to explore this
Yeah.
opportunity? Yeah.
No, I
That's
agree.
it.
I think digital and technology is really changing the way businesses are being done now and even going forward. So I think that was another question which I'll be coming to. But Prashant, by coming to you, how do you plan your future now? Is it something which is easy to plan, or you really see a lot of variables coming in today, or are you still looking at living by the day right now?
Uh, so we have tried to do a lot of planning with an expectation that there will be several aftershocks, uh, like the moment we started office, and our president marketing's elder brother uh, got corona, and he was at his house also before 5 days, so we closed the office for 5 days. Like these, we expect that something may keep on cropping up time and again, till we are out of this situation. What we have done is, considering that uh, the volumes for everybody will go down, as I told you, for broad basing, we have set up a target for one of the new products that we brought out about 4 or 5 years back in India, where we have already served about 100 customers successfully. Uh, we decided that let us have a target to reach to 50 countries in terms of supplies for this new product line, which is again from the same manufacturing setup, but a new product line. So there, uh, we, before the session also, we were discussing that we have put up a person on the job. You would be surprised. He is 87 years old, and he joined my organization about only 5 months back. He is working from home with a stenographer provided to him, and he has created wonder. I had about six foreign agents for this available with me. For other products, there are many, but for this product, and he has brought in agents, signed agreements. He has completed those things for further 15 countries, and we expect it to reach to 30 countries at the end of September. Now, this we are doing because, as Dhruv rightly said, we will not be able to travel. In fact, I have told our people not to travel at least up to 1st of January as of now. So, what we have done is, we are trying to create a structure where they will be in good contact with the customer. Whether they travel or not is immaterial for us. But to have live contact with the customer, you need relationship. So you need a link there, and that is how we are working. Parallelly, what we have done is, throughout the India, we have about 8 representatives in various industrial cities. So we started sessions with them, and we have educated them to a level where now they are starting to generate inquiries themselves. lot of data generation was done during the lockdown period. A few of the engineers were specifically put on those jobs, including five postgraduate MBA students from IIM also. They have done lot of work for us, and that database is now being utilized by our people to broad base our market. Yeah.
Right. That's very insightful, sir. Mr. Subi, maybe if you would like to respond in terms of how you are planning in the current times, and also an additional question I would like to ask, which I will also ask the other panelists, is in the current times, as we have seen, work from home has also worked out reasonably well. So, do you see that becoming a kind of a norm for you in the future as well, by leveraging digital technologies? Maybe you can also respond to that question along with your planning. How are you planning to? And then I'll move on to other panelists about work from home question.
Hello,
प्रशांत भाई खाली म्यूट में તમારે કરવું પડશે.
hello,
Yeah. Yes, sir. Please go on.
hello.
Mr. Subi, we can hear you. Sir, we can hear you.
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Mr. Subi, can you hear me? I think he can't hear us probably. We can hear him. We can hear you. Okay, maybe I'll move on to Dhruv. I think there's some technical problem at Mr. Subi's end. Radhika, are you there?
Yeah. Yes, Rajiv ji. Am I audible, right?
Yeah, you are. I'm just asking Radhika if she can call.
Radhika, please. Yeah.
So
If she can call Mr. Subi and just let him know.
work from home, when I said it's a great learning,
Huh.
it's a nice way to hello.
Mr. Subi, we can hear you. I'll have to use the call. I'll have to just call him.
Yes, yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Radhika, can you call Mr. Subramaniam and let him know that we can hear him, but maybe he's not able to hear us.
Oh, okay, okay. I'll just inform her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Dhruv, please go ahead.
Yeah, so work from home, when I said it's a great learning, it is a nice way to say we miserably failed. So, see, without monitoring, it simply doesn't work. And with monitoring, employee doesn't accept. So, uh, ideally, I found that we actually don't work more than 4 to 5 hours a day effectively. Most of the time, even when we are in office, we are doing firefighting and less value addition for the company. So while preparing for the work from home report, we realize we can do much better for ourselves if we start monitoring ourselves. So what we did it, we started the same report even from the office nowadays. That is really successful, which was not worked, it worked here. So I can say either we miserably fail or my coach Shyam Taneja always say that either we succeed or we learned. So in this case, we learned the lessons.
Right. Prashant, how are you seeing work from home? Since you already mentioned that you have got an octogenarian in your employee base now who is now working from home with the help of a steno. So how are you seeing it? Is it going to be a norm for your organization or it is going to be an exception? We'll have to unmute yourself, sir, please.
Yeah, it's not going to be a norm, but at least, as I said, up to 1st of January, as of now, we see that those who are working from home, they will work from home. As far as personally, I am concerned, I found that working from home, we lost the discipline in some respect, in a sense that normally I divide my day into genuinely three sections, and it started from 8 o'clock and it went right up to 11 o'clock. Like today also I have a Zoom with people from Detroit who are very, very keen to start a business from India to shift from China. But to adjust to their timing, uh, we have to adjust ourselves, which normally is not in my personal liking, because would like to devote time to the activities for which we are created for while we are at home. So uh, personally, I feel that at some point, if people are here, uh, it's better.
No, in fact, to an extent, I also agree because work from home, while it has its advantages, I've been hearing and reading that the work-life balance has really become very blurred, and people are actually working from 9 to 9 or maybe even more than 12, 14 hours, and sometimes even more than that actually. So you are right to maintain that discipline, and it's obviously not very convenient for everybody to expect them to work from home. So people are using it more rationally in terms of wherever possible, they are trying to leverage work from home more as a kind of a safety measure, but to ensure that there's productivity at the shop floor level, at the plant level, and in the organization as a whole. I think people still want to go back to the earlier ways of meeting and being there on the ground sooner than later. So I think I agree with you. And work from home may be more relevant for service organizations and maybe IT companies where it's easier to work from home, not manufacturing companies. Mr. Subi, can you hear me now?
I had some. I have a headphone. I'm okay now. Please carry on.
Yeah, please.
Can
So
you
I
hear
think
us?
the question, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, carry on, please.
No, sir, we were talking about work from home. How are
Ah,
you seeing work from home, shaping up for your organization in the future? Do you think you will actually leverage what you have seen and experienced on work from home, or it's going to again be back to normal business?
in fact, the work from home is what we're going to leverage in the future. Also is concerned. Actually, so and so with the customers also from home.
Ah,
That way, proximity is also there, as well as customer habits are also changing. Customer acceptability is also changing now. Customer are happy unless and until you go and handshake with. That both ways it's going to help us in the future. Once
yeah, yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, sir. Uh, I think what I'll also just pick up the thread from this. Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So I think just conscious of the time, and then we can also have more questions from the participants. Let me ask this question to all of you. In fact, starting with you, Mr. Subhi, uh, what are the top 2 or 3 threats which you perceive out of the current situation, and also the top 2 or 3 opportunities which you see for your organization going forward?
The top three threats, as I see, is yes, the sales, top line, yes, the profits, the bottom line, and obviously, in this situation where everything is shrinking or whatever is perceived, the competition is going to be the third risk which I can perceive. And as far as the opportunities are concerned, yes, digitization is the name of the game, which is going to open up a lot of business opportunities for us. We have a lot of solutions to offer for people to digitize their processes and their measurement techniques. The
Mhm.
cost cutting, as we have been always discussing in the last 1 hour, cost cutting, productivity improvement, and efficiency improvement is all the opportunities. And yes, expanded market and exports. These are the big opportunities, and also some of the areas which opens up are the infrastructure, the water, the power. These are the sectors which are going to be, and so by power I mean solar power including. These are new opportunities for us which are coming up.
Right. No, I think that's very promising to hear that. And it's good that there are enough opportunities which can overweigh and counter your threats. I think so it will keep you busy in terms of how to kind of leverage the opportunities rather than worrying about the threats, you know.
Yeah.
Prashant bhai, over to you in terms of what are your perception about the threats and opportunities going forward? સાહેબ તમારે unmute કરવું પડશે.
The slow payment cycle, which time and again will creep up, will come out, because like in Mumbai, the lockdown is now extended. Chennai also is under such situation. Now, time and again, many of our customers will not be able to pay in time in spite of their intentions, and we are just trying to balance it through our increasing export volume, so that and very good support from the bankers also, because we have two banks. One of them has already supported us. They were very quick in acting where, the moment government decided to do so. Now that is one thing that I look to. But otherwise, I find it this way, that because of, one reason, because of the policy that this government has taken up, particularly for defense units. You see, in spite of developing wonderful products, in March only, when I went to a public sector unit, I was literally threatened by a purchase head that this time you lost the tender. But next time I'm going to make sure that even I will import at a still lesser price. Uh, and I tried to explain that, sir, we are into, you are also serving the nation full time, and I am also serving the nation by about 15, 20, 25% of my products. Why not we align our vision? But it did not happen. But now, because of the policy of the government, most of the tenders which were really designed to go outside will not go outside, particularly MSMEs. When they serve, these tenders are not more than 5, 10, 15 crores or 20 crores. So, they have put up a limit up to 200 crores. So from defense, one point of view, I feel that government's policy is wonderful, which will give boost up to MSMEs. Second is, I see an opportunity for many of our MSMEs, if they are able to take control of their quality in terms of consistency, and if they are able to reduce the cost of production through various means that we need to do,
Hmm.
we have a great opportunity to serve our own country men, in terms of our industrial inputs to other factories. Because today I find that people are ready to pay 10 to 15% more than what China provides for. They are ready to invest that 10-15% in terms of trust they have, the small batches they'll be able to leverage, and the nearness of the suppliers. And in that situation, I personally feel that our own organization, as also many of our brothers, they need not have economy of scale. If they apply the right tools, they will be able to compete the factories of the world.
I think that's a very kind of insightful point, because generally we believe that economies of scales are very essential to be able to compete globally and particularly against China. And the perception is that China is 10 years ahead of us in terms of economies of scale, and to even think about competing with them in the industries where they are so strong is going to be only a dream. But I think, as you rightly said, Prashant bhai, even SMEs can look at finding out their own niche and to improve the quality and the price point or the cost of maintaining that quality. If they can work on both these levers well, then probably we can really leverage on the government policies on the Atmanirbhar front. I think great point, Prashant bhai. Dhruv, to you, what are your views on the threats and opportunities from your organization's standpoint?
My organization point of view, no, I don't see the threats because of this pandemic. Yes, of course, lower of economy,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have good export. For overall MSME, yes, a huge unemployment, disturbed social structure and values, and MNC's infiltration. Means for a few years back, I align with Prashant Bhai say, but few years back, government uh, initiative like Make in India
Hmm.
simply didn't like it because I prefer made in India by the Indian companies and not international company comes here and make it here. Now, because of Atmanirbhar, there are many opportunities. Only thing is we need to come out of our comfort zone of so many years of 10-15% growth, and we
Hmm.
see that world in a single context, the growth opportunity is above 50% year on year if we really see the market where we are
Right.
standing. So yes, the quality and consistency, if we manage with competitiveness, there is a really, really good scope. And I think most of the companies are working on the same line. Maybe the corona has forced them to work on the same line, which is required anyway for so many years.
Yeah. But Dhruv, I think just to your point, while India is having a Atmanirbhar policy, I think a lot of countries globally are also becoming very protectionist. So for Indian companies to really look at exports, when those countries will also start promoting their industries, how will the SMEs or companies from India be able to survive that kind of an onslaught from those countries when they also start adopting protectionist measures? Then the only option will be largely to survive on your domestic market, probably.
Yes, but then there are the countries, so many countries who doesn't produce anything. And there are a lot of import from the European, American or Chinese companies are coming. Now the waves and sentiment against China can also favor us. And if we improve quality and consistency, we can beat the Western countries also.
Right. So
So
I
it's a
think you made a very important point. We'll have to really see the markets, products, and then define where you want to play, and then you improve your competitiveness through quality and cost. So you are right. That will require some realignment to see even how the policies of global countries are shaping up, and where we really need to, as SMEs, need to find our sweet spots. Right. So there are several questions. I'll just go through a few of them. One question is. It's a question to all the panelists. Maybe let me start with Dhruv as he is already unmuted. Is it a good time to start a new venture?
depends what you are producing. Most of the people wanted to do the venture for the sake of entering into the venture. Are you solving someone's problem? Are you solving current problems? If you are in a business of solving someone's problem, yes, you can definitely start even today. But if you are copying something and think that it will automatically go because other product is also moving into the market, definitely wait for some time.
Yeah. Mr. Subbi, what is your point of view? Is it a good time to start a new venture?
It all depends on what type of business you're looking at. If it is going to be anything related to serving the coronavirus cause itself, then it's time to start business with. But our
Right.
kind of a business in which we are, at least I can comment from the electronics point of view, this is not the right time unless you're able to provide services, to customer, which again, remote services like software or whatever it is. Even for that, you have to do a lot of marketing. Maybe I'm on the other side of the table. This for startups, I believe that this is not the right time.
Okay. Prashant bhai, what's your view?
Yeah, sir. My views are aligned with Dhruv bhai's views. I would like to add this. In case if the investment in what you intend to do new is on a very low scale, then this is a wonderful time. You see, you are in an atmosphere of protection in such a large country where you know, country has already laid down several bumps for the Chinese products. I don't say they have prevented, but there are several hurdles they have put up and they are still putting up. And in this situation, in case if somebody starts, it would be a wonderful opportunity for them. But if somebody thinks that I want to conquer the world market, it doesn't happen so fast. One has to pass through several learning curves before it is put up to outside markets, because otherwise it really boomerangs. In one shot you just you are wiped off if you are not up to the mark, because we are not going to be able to learn the cultures of other countries. To give an example, when we work with Israel, we have to be uh, cautious 5 times. When work with America, their product liability insurance. Here there is a different spirit because they came out of Gulami before years. So there is a different spirit. America, they are ready with the insurances. Now all those things, if one wants to start, it has to be with very low investment and for India. This is my view. Over.
Right. So I think to some extent I also agree, and I was also reading some of the research which talks about the struggles which startups are facing in today's times. So while we say that there is a lot of money floating around in the economy today, global economy, and government has also given a lot of stimulus and banks are flush with funds, but the real money going to the startups and new ventures is a question mark, and hence several startups are also winding up today because of the liquidity constraints. So absolutely right, new venture or new startup depends exactly where you want to focus upon and what niche you can identify for yourself. But at the same time, there would be a lot of opportunities for nimble players who are digitally savvy and who can tap new markets in a more creative manner. That's where I think agility and SMEs would really be probably well suited for that because they don't have bureaucracy. So while there are pros and cons of being small, I think there are more pros if you look at the ability to be more agile, more nimble, and to adopt digital solutions to be able to leverage the global market in the current times. So I think these were some of the thoughts which even I had on the startup, on the setting up a new venture. There are multiple questions, but I think before I maybe we can take a last question, which is summarizing multiple points, and I can ask all the panelists one by one. What are your tips of being resilient? Firstly, let me ask you how you would rate yourself in terms of resilience, being prepared to face the future challenge in a scale of 1 to 10, and what would be your tips to SMEs to kind of face the future times? So starting from Prashant Bhai, quick question, quick responses. Where would you rate yourself from a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of preparedness? And second point is, what are your tips to SMEs to survive the future?
Yeah, I feel that we are on a scale of about 8 or 9 as far as this is concerned, how we have prepared ourselves. And okay, one very important point I want to make on the last part of your question, where you see it's very important that internally we improve our strengths in terms of improving the quality and reducing the cost. Here, you see the associations can play a very important role. Government cannot do everything, but there is a story of બધા કબૂતર સાથે ઉડ્યા પેલો પારધી રહી ગયો. You see, industry associations have a very big role to play if they create virtual programs where people take up 5S, that is workplace organization. People also take up kaizens and lean six sigma, etc., which is all possible now to learn uh, while sitting on your desk. And if we prepare all these such clusters, the industry clusters, then probably India will be able to compete and will be able to produce in India and for the world, like our principle of Vasudev Kutumbakam. Thank you. Over.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Mr. Subbi, what are your thoughts on this? Where would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And what are the tips for SMEs?
It's 6:30.
I would be rating ourselves around 7.5. We need to go another 2.5 steps more. In terms of implementation, basically, we are there very much knowing about the technology, knowing about the working from home and all. Finally, the implementation and putting everybody together, that is the area where we have to move forward. as far as the points are concerned, as I said, now we need to have first of all a strong mindset, meaning to say learning and growing must be the attitude, and we have to think that everything is an opportunity. And secondly, I already told you that we have to go quarterly, and thirdly, yes, we have to get the best out of the people by motivating them, communicating with them, and so yeah, the style of business we need to change by virtue of digital marketing, and that's the new normal as of today. And that's what I have to say. And of course, cash flow management is very, very important. We need to
Yeah.
focus on that and focus on the new opportunities and new avenues which open up in this situation. In that respect, we are well tuned because we have a very good team to develop products very quickly and switch gear and change track. And that, from that respect, we are very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as I was telling you, being small sometimes is also giving you a lot of agility. And there was another question on how do you ensure your employee morals and employee morale and motivation. And I think you rightly mentioned that in current times and going forward, keeping your employees' motivation high will be an important thing. And companies who can do that well will have the opportunity to grow as well, much faster than the competition. Dhruv, what are your views on your scaling and your tips for the SMEs?
Tips for SME, no, I'm nobody, but you ask about my skill, I don't know. We really don't know what is the future. We are definitely ready for next 6 months, and rest we leave a data, graph, and analysis of big four consulting firms. So another answer I can give about resilient. Resilient, also I found, I mean, when I got the invitation, I checked the dictionary meaning. In one of the dictionary, it is written, it's an person or animal able to withstand or recover quickly from the difficult condition. Simple. And it is written below that babies are generally far more resilient. So, you know, you take things away from them, they still try to catch again and again. If they can't get straight away, they go round the corner, under the bed, etc. So most important, apart from these, if they failed 100 times, they still next time they put effort. They don't regret or remember that I failed 100 times, so I will not try. We are trying to cultivate the same culture in our organization nowadays. We tried CRM during this pandemic. We miserably failed. Few manager has a resistance or fear of control. No problem. So let's start with some other section in another division in our company with the 3 people, which we already starting now. We failed work from home. Great. Let's apply the same principle, work from office, and then we succeed. So, as I said, you never fail. Either you succeed or you learn. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, Dhruv. I think, and generally, the whole fear of failure is something which holds us back. But if you convert that fear of failure to the joy of learning, then you will be more inspired to take some of the bold steps which you have already taken, and then see how it goes. And if there is something learning out of it, you can apply in a different context, like from work from home, you're applying it to work in office. So I think the whole mindset has to really change. And I also like your point that babies are more agile. So, and I think I would just like to extrapolate that would not stop companies from growing, but I think you should have a childlike mindset, but you can still grow your organization to a bigger size. But I think the ability to learn and the curiosity of a child has to be alive in the leader himself first, to ensure that the entire organization remains more open and agile to opportunities around them. I think that's a very good point. I think I like that point, Dhruv. Thanks a lot for that. I think overall, let me just put the floor open, all the 3 panelists, if you have any last comments to make, because I've covered most of the questions which were there on the by the participants as well. We have covered most of the questions in the discussion. There is one question on how to manage manufacturing going forward with a large manpower without affecting the health and production capacity. I think to some extent we have covered that. So I think maybe
Here, just for a word, because it was a challenge where we failed. So in India also, you know, it is a social structure is such a way that we don't follow this social distancing at all. Whatever the way, rules, regulation, camera, measurement we did. Whenever we go, I found it that there are loopholes. So finally, it come down to the point that let us, instead of doing so much, of course we are doing it. Additionally, we have done a lot of things to increase their immunity. So up to an extent, we stopped tea, sugar, as our Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar ji also tell that we need to increase the immunity, which is the sure short way. So we started strong Ayurvedic drink. To begin with, it started with 10, 15 people, and now almost 400 employees drinking every day. We made it Art of Living course with Sudarshan Kriya for the breathing and increasing lung capacity. Now it is not happening, so we did it online. All our 13 branch offices also did the course. So there are so many other measures we can take it, and which increase the immunity. And not only immunity, when the employee is doing such thing, their family also believe that we care. That was a real concern. It was my goal, which I announced on the first day when the lockdown opened, that none of our employee or their family should be a part or trapped into this pandemic. I have not achieved fully. One employee out of 500 got affected in COVID. Others till now may be asymptomatic, but nobody's been affected. So, yeah, that's all.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dhruv. Prashant bhai, any thoughts from your side in terms of closing remarks? Any tips, any further guidance to the audience?
Sir, it need not be guidance because it was a great learning session for us also. But I would like to say this, that you see, now we are living in a decentralized organizations. You know, people are scattered and they are going to be like this for a few more months, or we don't know. In this situation, the organizations which, leadership, if it takes up theory why approach, an approach of encouragement and learning, these organizations are going to be successful. Theory X approach, where in military it works. You say, they say आपको दौड़ना है, जहाँ जवान हुए ત્યાં જવાનું, પડી જવાનું તો પડી જવાનું. But it doesn't work because it's not in your presence that everybody works. Even sitting in office, you are not able to move to other people's cabin. So people are working independently in their own places, and it is only motivation and approach of the leadership towards them which will work through turbulent times to take the organizations through this sea now. Over. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the leadership is going to be so important, and that's where the leadership with empathy and the emotional quotient is going to really play a very important role. And as it is again mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, yad yad achariti shreshtaha tat tat devetaro janaha. So like the leaders actually perform and they will act, so the followers will also behave. So I think as leaders, you all and we all have the onus on us to ensure that people emulate us in the right spirit, and we give the right message to them of empathy, of compassion, and at the same time help them to achieve their full potential by leveraging technology, by empowering them, by removing the fear in their mind of failure and the fear in their mind of not getting their pay after a month or losing job. I think as long as we can remove that fear and empower them to do and bring out the best from themselves, I think we have done our job as a leader. Mr. Subi, any last few comments from your side?
Yeah, I would like to read a prayer, a universal prayer, which my wife had passed on to me, which I read daily. Will you allow me to do that?
Sure.
Abundance prayer. From the light of God that we are, from the love of God that we are, from the power of God that we are, from the heart of God that we are, let's decree. We dwell in the midst of infinite abundance. The abundance of God is our infinite source. The river of life never stops flowing. It flows through us into lavish expression. Good comes to us through unexpected avenues, and God works in a myriad of ways to bless us. We now open our minds to receive our good. Nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too wonderful to happen. God as our source, nothing is us. We are not burdened by thoughts of past or future. One is gone, the other is yet to come. But by the power of our belief, coupled with our purposeful, fearless actions and our deep rapport with God, our future is created and our abundance made manifest. We ask and accept that we are lifted in this and every moment into higher truth, and our minds are quiet. From this day forward, we give freely and fearlessly into life, and life gives back to us with magnificent increase. Blessings come in expected and unexpected ways. God provides for us in wondrous ways for the work that we do. I am indeed grateful to God. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this lovely message, a very optimistic note. I think this also sums up the whole discussion quite well in the form of a very nice prayer. And I would like to thank each one of you personally as well for sharing your rich wisdom and knowledge and years of experience. And the questions can go on and on. Maybe Radhika can collate some more questions if they have from the participants, and they can reach out to you one on one as well. But from my side, it was a great learning for me as well, talking to each one of you personally and also collectively today as a group. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and thanks to all the participants who took out the time on a Friday evening to join us. And I hope it was interesting and insightful for you as well as it was for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Subbi. Thank you, Prashant Bhai. Thank you, Dhruv.
Yeah, I
Thank
will
you,
also
Mr.
thank
Subbi.
you, the co-participants, and the members who have come to listen to us. And I was telling Prashant just a little while before that whatever the value, 2 cents worth of it, if we have delivered something to the people who have listened to us, I'll be very happy. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think in the COVID style, let us do namaste to everybody and say goodbye. Thank you.
Distinguished panel members, moderator, and participants, thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to request participants to share their feedbacks, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you, AMA. Bye bye.